I have no idea.
Oh, so we don't know. We don't have that information.
No, I don't. I didn't look into that at all. I wasn't interested in that, but it would be interesting to.
Interesting to find out. So how does one, what do you think, how does that happen? 30% of the voting, 30% of the votes go to you who virtually didn't campaign.
Right. Um, I don't know. I mean, there's a study there for somebody that does this for a living. I think in that um, it's. But on the other hand, it still amazes me that I only got 30%, which tells me that money. And I'm not tooting my own horn here, but I've been the independent voice here in Gardner for the people for 20 years in city government, and I've been 4 years city solicitor. I was always top one or two or three in city council elections. Um, and I had just at the most recent election I got the most votes in the city council election. So I'm like, how is it that I only got 30%? And it has to be, well, a lot of it has to do with money, advertising. Um, I mean, you saw the Facebook ads that went out, the
Right.
multiple Facebook, the multiple mailings. We did one mailing, and it was a minimum mailing, and it was like a little postcard. And Mayor Nicholson had a bunch of mailings. I still have a couple around here. Some are big, impressive mailings with all the endorsements of the world. I think he got 6 or 7 endorsements from the city council. Um, that same city council that had unanimously elected me president um, right before the election. I mean, the year before the election. So, anyways, there's something going on there in terms of a study that somebody should do that does these things. On the one hand, yeah, it was pretty good to get almost 1,000 votes, having not even campaigned or did any advertising. But on the other hand, a well-known name of a politician that's been around for 20 years, City Hall elected, only got 1,000 votes. That's the other way to look at it.
It's all very interesting to me because minded, um, as a liberal-minded voter myself, engaged citizen, somebody who cares about this stuff very deeply, who has in the past, in primarily in local and state elections, voted for uh, for Democrats, Republicans, and Independents. Um, I don't ever feel like unenrolled voters are courted per se or properly campaigned to, and that more than not, there it's often where you're being made to feel like, come on, pick a side,
Pick a
pick
side.
be a part of something. You're not really a part of something, so we really don't need you. Even
Enroll.
look
Go
at the
enroll.
numbers, and I've been a part of campaigns in the past as a volunteer, and behind the scenes, people are like, like, well, we got. I mean, how are we going to get these votes? How are we going to engage these people and know that they're going to vote for us? How do we really make that stuff happen? And I don't think a lot of people who have done anything more than vote realize just how last minute all this sort of comes down to. By the way, it's like I mean, like that
Yeah.
last week or the last few days of a campaign. They're really, really dialing for dollars, if you will. You know what I
Well,
mean?
well, like what you just said, brings something else up that's related in this situation, this recent mayoral campaign that we're just talking about. I've been around for quite a while here in Gardner, and at the local level, your denomination never had anything to do with local elections. Never had anything to do with mayor. Never had anything to do with city council. It just, as a matter of fact,
You're talking about you're
our
talking
city charter says
nonpartisan campaigning, or are you talking about how the vote?
non-denominational candidates. In other words, it didn't matter if you were Democrat or Republican.
Yeah.
Never mattered. But this time it did. Um, and I think that's one of the reasons why. And nothing against Mike Nicholson, he's an impressive person, and although hasn't been around that long, I mean, I think he's been groomed for that position, and his brief career was all um, involved with that type of work and working as aide for various mayors and state reps or whatnot. Um, But the thing is that he got endorsed by the Democrats and endorsed by the Republicans. I saw people holding signs for Mayor Nicholson out there that I've gone to bat for, not only as a lawyer, but a, as a city councilor. I put my neck on the line for people, and they're sitting there holding Michael Nicholson signs. I stopped and looked at one person. I'm like, "You're kidding me, right?" Because I literally, I won't even get into what happened, but when there's a push between one person and another person for a certain appointment, and I don't really know which way to go. Well, I'm probably going to go with the person that has shown that he can do the job, but that shows some loyalty and puts my neck on the line when the other person that he was going against was a former city councilor. But then to see him holding somebody else's sign up, it's kind of like, what just happened? I know what happened because he's a staunch Republican and Mayor Nicholson had an R next to his name. So Mayor Nicholson got all those Republicans, and then he got in something that's almost bizarre to me. He got very, very rigorous and stringent Democratic support, including I think there were 6 city councilors that are registered Democrats that supported him. So it was kind of like this thing where your party not only became relevant for the first time in a local election, at the same time, it didn't matter which party you were. You were both parties were voting for Nicholson because I didn't have a party.
It's yeah, well, what's sort of coalescing here is an overall theme in our discussion for me is all the what ifs and the what I don't knows. And what I mean by that is you know, the political person in me likes on its face this idea that Republicans and Democrats come together, and and we all try to find common ground and all that, and yet if you're me, you weren't exactly happy with the outcome of that particular election. Because when you really get engaged as a citizen and you have very specific policy issues, right? Or you have specific projects. If it's like this was a municipal election, so there were specific projects that I knew you supported or didn't support, or that Mike supported or didn't support, right? So there's very specific reasons when you're fully engaged why you want one person over another, and none of those things happened. You know what I mean?
No.
So and just generally globally as a citizen, I never want to come across to people. I never want to self-limit because, well, this is my friend and this is my enemy. You know what I mean? I hate that kind of stuff. At the same time, you look and you say, man, we're not going to get any of the projects built that we thought we could. We're not going to get any of the policy changes that we thought we could. And so that kind of like bringing together of the two parties in this particular case didn't exactly work out if you're seeing it from the perspective of a voter like me, and people like me, right? That kind of thing.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's only been a couple months since Mayor Nicholson's been in there, so it's too early to say whether or not any of those things are going to happen. You
True.
know, you
True.
know.
That's true.
But I hear what you're saying. You can have certain expectations that you think aren't going to come to fruition based on
Well, I'm
certain
basing
things.
it on very specific questions that were answered during the campaign. Do you
Right.
support this? No. Okay. Or yes, that kind of thing.
Right. No.
There's, I don't know if these things are connected, but a general issue with local voting here, and I don't think it's so unusual, especially for deindustrialized cities or regions like ours, is just the lack of people who vote in the first place. I don't think that has much to do with the unenrolled nature of people. I think it has to do with a whole other. Granted, mind you, there's complicated issues. There's multiple issues working together that result in very poor turnout, or what I would consider to be very poor turnout. But I personally don't think it has anything to do with an increasing number of unenrolled voters.
No. No, I agree with that. What you just said. I think what you're seeing is a vast and massive apathy, and I think it comes from the fact that the the common person. I think we're only getting about 20-25% of registered voters voting, not just not the eligible people, not the people who are eligible to vote, but the
Registered.
actual registered voters is about 20% or so, 25, 26%, right? So I think the reason why 80 or 75% of the people, registered voters, aren't voting is because they're looking at how awful the 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 leader the candidates are, and the political parties are. They're polar. They're either way to the left or way to the right, it seems. And there's no, like we were saying earlier, there's no middle ground. And people's like, what's the use? And in Massachusetts, also, let's face it, it's 85. I think Beacon Hill,
Well, I
our
just
legislature, 85% Democrat.
1.5 million registered Democrats, 459,900 registered
No,
Republicans.
no, but what I'm saying is the representatives and the senators are 85% Democrats.
That's
So
right. Yeah.
so a lot of people don't even bother voting because what's the use?